The sound of running water was wrong because I lived alone, and the lock on my door was still turned exactly the way I always left it. I froze in the hallway, keys biting into my palm, listening to plates clink together in my kitchen like they belonged there. Then a voice I recognized, calm, low, unmistakably my neighbor's, said, "You're home early," as if this were the most normal mistake in the world and not the moment my heart decided to break its own ribs, trying to escape. I stepped forward and saw him at my sink, sleeves rolled up, dark hair tied back, washing my dishes with slow, careful movements. The window above the sink was open, evening air lifting the curtain, and the smell of soap mixed with the sharp scent of rain. "Why are you here?" I asked, and hated how small my voice sounded. He didn't turn around right away. He rinsed a plate, set it on the rack, and only then looked at me with an expression that wasn't guilt or fear, but something heavier, like relief mixed with dread. "Because you weren't answering," he said, "and because you were never supposed to find out like this." We had lived next to each other for 3 years. I knew he was Apache because he told me once, casually, while helping jump my car. I knew he kept to himself, fixed old radios, watched the street like it might suddenly betray him. I did not know he had a key to my apartment. I did not know he knew my schedule better than I did. My mouth opened, closed. The room felt too tight. "Find out what?" I asked, and noticed then the envelope on the counter, already opened, my name written in handwriting that was not mine. He dried his hands and slid the envelope toward me. Inside were photographs, my photographs. Me at the bus stop, me unlocking my door, me asleep on my couch, the angle wrong, too close. My stomach dropped so fast it felt like falling through a trapdoor. "Someone's been watching you," he said quietly. "Not me, I've been trying to stop it." I laughed once, sharp and hysterical, because that was easier than screaming. "By breaking into my home?" He flinched at that like I'd struck him. "By staying ahead," he said. "By cleaning up traces before they turn into something worse." The truth came out in pieces, like glass working its way out of a wound. The man across the street who never waved. The unmarked van that parked at odd hours. The device he found taped under my mailbox. He spoke fast now, urgency bleeding through the calm. He had been a tracker once, he said. Trained to see patterns people miss, taught by elders that noticing is a responsibility. He noticed the wrong footsteps outside my door, the faint click in my phone line, the way my trash had been gone through. He noticed and he didn't look away. I wanted to call the police. The word tasted safe. He shook his head. "They're already involved," he said, and that was when fear turned cold. He told me about a private contractor testing surveillance software, about consent buried in fine print, about neighborhoods chosen because people wouldn't fight back. "You opted out," he said. "You filled out a form 3 years ago. They didn't like that." I stared at him, remembering a stack of papers at the DMV. The boxes I'd checked without reading. The room tilted. A thud sounded from cold rain, slapped my face as we hit the alley. The metal ladder rattling behind us like it wanted to give us away. My neighbor didn't slow down. He moved with certainty, pulling me through puddles and shadows. Every turn chosen before I knew there was a choice to make. Sirens bloomed somewhere too close, and I realized with a hollow shock that they weren't coming to help. They were coming for me. "They'll say you're confused," he said over his shoulder. "They'll say I coerced you. They'll say anything that keeps you quiet." My lungs burned. My shoes slipped, and still I ran, because the idea of going back upstairs felt worse than whatever waited ahead. We ducked into an abandoned laundromat. The glass front shattered and boarded from the inside. He shoved a vending machine aside to reveal a door that shouldn't have been there. Underground, the air was warm and humming, cables snaking along the walls like veins. Screens glowed in the dark, showing my street from angles I had never seen. Timestamps blinking, data scrolling faster than I could read. "This is what they built under us," he said. "And this is what they're afraid you'll see." On one screen, my apartment replayed itself from earlier that evening. Me stepping inside, me freezing in the hallway, him at my sink. My stomach turned as I watched my own life lag behind me by minutes. He told me they called it predictive safety, a system trained on behavior to intervene before harm occurred. But intervention meant pressure, nudges, manufactured fear, until people complied or disappeared into paperwork. I'd been flagged as resistant. My neighbor, his name finally given, like a confession, had been flagged as expendable. "They assume I won't be believed," he said simply. "They assume you won't be missed." I thought of how many times I'd walked past him without really seeing him, how easy it was to let quiet people become invisible. Footsteps thundered overhead. The screens flickered as a voice crackled through hidden speakers. Calm and practiced, asking us to come out. They promised safety. They promised clarity. My hands shook as I noticed a final screen lighting up. My parents' house. Live feed, a cursor circling their front door. My breath caught in my throat. "They'll hurt them," I said. "Not if we make noise first," he replied, already typing. He handed me a small mic, worn smooth. "They can erase files," he said. "They can't erase witnesses." The signal went live. My voice trembled, then steadied as fear sharpened into anger. I spoke about the cameras, the forms, the photos taken while I slept. Comments flooded in, disbelief colliding with recognition, as others named the same strange knocks, the same vans. The voice overhead changed, losing its patience. The light surged. Somewhere, glass shattered. My neighbor pulled me close as the underground shook. "No matter what happens," he said quietly, "you tell them the truth." When they finally broke through, it wasn't dramatic. It was efficient. Hands grabbed, restraints snapped closed. The world narrowed to fluorescent light and the smell of metal. They separated us, questions flying like darts meant to stick. I answered with the truth again and again, even when they smiled and told me I was wrong. Hours later, or days, time had no edges. I was released with a warning and a folder of apologies that explained nothing. They said my neighbor had vanished. They said he was never there. But silence doesn't erase footsteps. In the weeks that followed, others spoke. Screenshots appeared. Whistleblowers leaked. Lawsuits stacked like bricks. My kitchen felt too quiet without the sound of running water. But sometimes I found a dish wash that I knew I hadn't touched. A radio on my shelf clicked on by itself, a familiar station humming to life. Once taped under my sink, I found a note written small and careful, "Still watching. Still protecting. Trust you're noticing." I don't know where he went, only that the cameras on my street went dark one by one. I don't know who else is still being watched. But I know this. The next time you hear water running when you live alone, don't assume you're imagining it. Someone might be trying to save you before you ever realize you need it.